The scene would have been hilarious if it wasn't so ridiculous. Two full-grown men were crawling across my front yard, groaning and grabbing their legs like they'd just run into a brick wall. One of them, a big guy in a dark polo shirt, was actually crying. The other, lankier with a buzzcut that now had tufts missing, kept shouting, "He's got a ram. That lunatic owns a combat ram." I took a slow sip of sweet tea from my porch rocker and called out in a chipper voice, "Technically, Hank's a mountain ram. And you're trespassing." The thinner guy tried to rise but immediately dropped again when Hank pawed at the dirt near the old fishing dock. I added, "Might want to get a move on. He's just warming up. My name's Jonah Brooks. I spent nearly 20 years stashing every dime to afford my dream, a peaceful 40-acre homestead by the water in Cedar Hollow Hills." The brochure promised serenity and untouched beauty. What it failed to disclose was that the HOA had recently elected Beatrice Langley as president, a woman with the charm of a tax audit and the empathy of a brick. I'm not a complicated man. 15 years patching up riders on the rodeo circuit left me with bad knees and a better sense of humor. When running got hard, I opened a small fry shack in town. All I wanted was peace and time with my animals. My little family included Buck and Rosie, two border collies smarter than most folks, a trio of miniature goats who doubled as lawnmowers, and of course, Hank. Hank wasn't your average ram. He was a 200-pound rescue with twisted horns and the patience of a saint, unless provoked. He loved neck rubs and would trail behind me like a big, woolly duckling. The first sign of trouble came 1 week after moving in. A note had been jabbed into my flower bed with a stick. Written in crimson ink with a tone sharp enough to cut glass, it read, "Mr. Brooks, it has come to our attention that unauthorized livestock are present on your lot. As per Section 4.3c of the Cedar Hollow HOA Agreement, only decorative animals allowed. The goats and that horned beast must be removed within 72 hours. Signed, Beatrice Langley, HOA President." I read it, chuckled, and tossed it in the fire pit. My deed included livestock rights, and this land was designated agricultural before the HOA was even formed. Beatrice could get lost. She didn't take the hint. Over the next few weeks, she escalated. First came surveillance cameras installed just beyond my property line, pointed squarely at my barn. Then a flurry of complaints arrived. The goats were labeled a noise hazard. Hank's morning strolls were dubbed aggressive intimidation. Even my dogs got flagged for animal gang behavior. Each bogus claim was filed and printed with fake legal references. I filed them under HOA fiction. Hank, sensing the rising tension, started spending his mornings standing still on the hillside, staring down Beatrice's house. I didn't encourage it, but I wasn't going to stop it either. Then came the Friday that everything changed. I'd been gone just 3 hours buying feed. When I returned, I spotted two men standing inside my pasture, well past the locked gate. Both wore matching black polos and cheap plastic badges. One held a pool noodle like a weapon, inching toward Hank with all the skill of someone who'd never seen a farm animal. The other was chasing goats with a child's butterfly net. I parked and walked over slowly. "Afternoon, gentlemen, what brings you to my pasture?" They jumped. The larger one flashed a badge like it meant something. "Cedar Hollow Security, official business, Code 3 Property Enforcement." I squinted. The badge had glitter on it. "And who gave you permission to enter private property through a locked gate?" The wiry guy with the net squeaked. "President Langley. She said your animals were illegal and we had authority. Necessary force if required." I nearly laughed. Pool noodles and butterfly nets against Hank. This was going to be a life lesson. "You see the signs on that gate. No trespassing. That means you're breaking the law. And I'm recording." The big guy snorted and turned back to Hank. "Sheep. Time to go." He jabbed the noodle toward Hank, who had been grazing peacefully but now locked eyes with him. "Might want to back up," I offered. But he didn't listen. Poke. Hank's ears twitched. His legs tensed. Then, bam. 200 pounds of ram fury slammed into the guy's shin. The scream could have shattered windows. He flew backwards into my compost cart, a ripe mixture of eggshells and goat poop. The smell was biblical. The skinny one froze. Hank spun and eyed him next. The guy whispered, "Why is it smiling? Why does it have knees like jackhammers?" He bolted, but Hank was already charging. This time, he clipped the man mid-run, sending him flying into my decorative fountain with a splash that made every bird scatter. The camera on his chest was still rolling. I calmly recorded everything. Hank, satisfied, resumed grazing. The two men began to crawl away through the yard, soaked, smeared with compost, and whimpering. I called 911 from the porch. What's your emergency? 2 men broke onto my land and tried to take my livestock. My ram defended himself. They're crawling across the grass. When Sheriff Keller showed up, he took one look at the scene and sighed. Jonah, what the hell happened here? I showed him the footage. He watched in silence, then muttered, "That's a ram, you moron," when the guy called Hank a sheep. He approached the suspects, who produced driver's licenses and their homemade badges. These aren't valid. Impersonating security is a crime. You're looking at trespassing, attempted theft, and misrepresentation. Langley sent us, the skinny one said, wincing. She said the law overrules land deeds. A deputy took their statements. Turns out the duo were Beatrice's nephew and his roommate. She paid them $200 to remove Hank and made their badges at a mall printer. Their camera had captured a speakerphone call with Beatrice saying, "Just grab the ram. He's probably tame." I filed a formal complaint. My lawyer, Erica Long, nearly danced when I showed her the video. Jonah, this is textbook civil and criminal liability. She fired off letters and unearthed more dirt. Beatrice had made up bylaws and issued threats outside her authority. The HOA held an emergency meeting. Word spread like wildfire. The hall was packed. Neighbors whispered and glared at Beatrice as she sat stiffly at the front. When the video played, the room fell silent. Then roared with outrage. Board member Grace Turner stood up. "Beatrice, did you seriously send 2 untrained people to abduct a livestock animal from private property?" Beatrice sputtered, "They're dangerous animals. It was for the good of the neighborhood." Erica stood. "Mr. Brooks's land is zoned agricultural. He broke no laws. Your president, however, committed crimes. The HOA's insurance already denied coverage." Chairman Frank Bell called a vote, remove Beatrice from office. The motion passed 6-1. Then a second vote, ban her from future HOA positions and cooperate fully with law enforcement. Another 6-1. Outside the hall, Beatrice was served legal papers. Charges included trespass, conspiracy, impersonation, and harassment. But the real cherry on top came weeks later. In court, the judge sentenced her to 18 months probation, community service with animal shelters, and a $10,000 fine. Beatrice shouted, "All this for trying to keep property values up." The gavel hit the bench. "This court values the law." As she walked out, a city worker removed her custom gavel-shaped mailbox from HOA grounds. The clang of metal echoed her downfall. And Hank? He just kept on grazing, king of his hill.